What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Free Speed Podcast, your go-to podcast for navigating fitness and life with purpose. We're your hosts, Calvin Vogler.
And I'm Natasha Bozic.
And it is episode 18 today, and it is March 3rd. And I had to double check my watch there because it is crazy how fast February flew by.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, we competed at Hyrox Brisbane, and so the whole point of today's episode is going to be our Hyrox Brisbane recap. Tash and I both raced in the individual pro races on Saturday night.
Yep.
And it was a bit of a relief once we were done. And so when we went back on Sunday, it was nice to just kind of watch and not have any stress. But before we get into that, let's give you a bit of a life update. Tell them what's going on and how you've been doing with just training and everyday life.
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
You have some big news.
I have an exciting opportunity, but I don't want to talk about it yet because I don't want to speak it out of existence. But it is very, very exciting, and I feel like I kind of have imposter syndrome. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Just because, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that could be an opportunity for me, and it is.
And especially just for those of you listening, very confused. Tash, when we moved here, Tash was pretty set on not wanting to work in the food industry, but
hospitality.
and because she had just worked at a restaurant for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And when we moved here, and it kind of became a reality that she kind of had to do that for the short term.
Yeah, just until I found.
And then it kind of turned
else.
into the last 3.5 months or so, 3 months. And so it's exciting because basically this new opportunity is a part-time coaching position, and she'll talk more about it in another episode.
Yeah.
But basically the what's exciting is it's just early days, and it's like you said, I feel even when I started coaching here till now, the hardest part is just the fact that you don't know all the members or you don't know all the people at the gym.
Yeah, for sure.
And then once people just assume you're a part of the normal procedure, then people don't really judge or think or critique you as much. It's just those first impressions. It is interesting because we were just talking earlier today, and it is real to feel those stress when you're in a new environment. I think anyone who's listening, if you're worried about first impressions, it's very, very normal. I think one of my biggest fears is making the wrong first impression, and it's because I always have thought that it's make or break. But ultimately, I think what I've noticed is your true character is built over time.
Yeah.
You can lose it. You can lose it pretty seriously, quickly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if someone's going to judge you based on a couple things or surface level stuff, then they really that's on them.
But I also think that's the reason why I even got the opportunity in the first place, because of my character and who I am and what people perceive me over time. Yeah. Kind of thing.
I agree.
If you're listening to this and going, what are you talking about? You will know in the next few weeks. I just don't want to talk about it too soon because
I think it's already, you're already past that stage, but I wasn't talking to the mic there. You're already past that stage, but I think, it's definitely exciting, and we'll talk about that more in either the next episode or the one after. And you'll have more experience and just updates with that.
Yeah. Personally,
I feel very relieved. So this past Hyrox race, and we'll get into it more, I was so focused. And Tash, I don't know if you can agree about that. What you think.
Yeah.
We had that whole episode about sacrifices. And I think you even started to see how I started to implement those sacrifices leading up to this race, because it was more important to me to execute and to feel I've done everything that I needed to do than live like the next 6 months or so, because I'm not planning on racing Hyrox until potentially August or September of next year. And so
Not this year, next year.
Yeah, of this year.
Yeah,
of this year.
2025.
But still, it's like 6 months away.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that like these opportunities are infrequent. They don't happen. They don't come often. And so I think just knowing that also inherently brings pressure kind of was a kick in my ass into like just showing up and delivering. And so I'm definitely happy that it's over, because now I can focus to these new goals that I'll talk about at the end of the episode, which is exciting. And for those of you who don't know, there is what do they call them? The storm? Cyclone. I was going to call it a typhoon. I think typhoons in like South America. It's like typhoon, hurricane, and cyclones are all the same thing, but they're just different parts of the world.
To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you what a cyclone is.
No, it's a hurricane. Oh. It's a hurricane on this side of the Pacific Ocean. Oh. It's like, so the ring of fire where like these storms happen. So the hurricane is coming like through the Atlantic, and it hits like Florida, Mexico, all that. From what I know, I don't know. Someone might be like, Calvin, you don't know what you're talking about. We need to Google this later, but the cyclone, is about to hit Australia. About to hit the like Gold smack Coast. Dab in Brisbane, the Gold Coast. Brisbane, and so we know one person, and I'm a part of a triathlon kind of club that I know a bunch of people are like scared because they're signed up for this Mooloolaba triathlon this weekend, and it's like apparently it's 2 to 3 meter waves, which would be gnarly. Oh yeah, because they have to swim in the ocean. Imagine a 3 meter wave during the middle of your triathlon. That'd be nuts. So
that's so stressful. That's why, like, I don't know, I would much rather do a triathlon in a lake than the ocean. Like, I just could not.
Yeah, for those of you, for anyone who's interested in doing triathlon, so I did this half Ironman in Santa Cruz 3 years ago almost now. It's 2.5 years. And like one of the things that I told Tash immediately after, and I told everybody that I've talked to about it, is like swimming that far out in the ocean, like around the pier, even that, it was so like, one, the salt water, but two, just like how like gnarly it was. Like the only way you could get me to do that is being in like a pack of like thousands of people. Yeah. But I would have rather done a lake swim. So if you're looking for a triathlon event, and you can kind of pick one and pick and choose because you live in an area where there's a bunch of different ones, find one with a lake swim. And ideally the lake swim is down current, so you're kind of swimming with the river. And
but I will say, like Calvin and I swam in a lake here in Australia a couple weeks ago.
Oh my god.
And it felt so different than the ocean. Like, it felt like you were like 3 times heavier than you were. And it's just so much
That's why
harder.
I think the river, that's what you really want, is the river swim. The lake swim isn't actually like ideal, because I mean, you won't. The thing is if you swim like normally with most people, like the water kind of gets in your mouth and you spit it out. When you take on seawater enough and you don't necessarily train in the ocean too much, like it will ruin your stomach for a while. And if you got like a 5 hour or even a 10 to 12 hour Ironman kind of thing, and your stomach is not in a good spot in the first hour, it's not ideal. Anyway, that we got into the triathlon stuff, which
back to the Hyrox Brisbane debrief. So
let's start with you. Yeah. And I want to start the debrief with the week leading up to the race, and just like really quickly, like briefly kind of skim through how you were feeling in the week leading up in like our taper week, or how you were even perceiving the taper week based on what training you had been doing leading up to it. And then you could even talk about maybe what, if there was any influences, like was there anything that like kind of helped your mindset going into the race? And then like when you kind of go through that, then go to like the day of.
So the week before, I tried to keep the same diet that like we usually eat, like just no new foods, like nothing that's gonna like upset your stomach, because like that would be the worst thing. I was still like, I'm still a little bit sick, so I was still recovering from a cold that's just been lingering for the past few weeks. So haven't been running as much as I wanted to, but it was taper week, so it's not like you're gonna be running.
Be more specific. What kind of running did you want to have been doing, and what did you do?
Well, to be honest, ever since we did the 25K race in January, I feel like my running has gone, just because like it's been so hot here, and because of my work schedule, I can't run at nighttime because I work nights. So the only time to run is during the day, and like you're just gonna get blasted by sun, and it's so hot, and it's actually like the hardest thing, at least for me. I see other people outside running all the time during the middle of the day, but for me it's like extremely hard because my heart rate goes through the roof, and then it's like, why am I doing a zone 2 run in the middle of the day but my heart rate is like 20 beats per minute higher than it should be.
Yeah, you know what I think you should actually start doing, I'm just thinking about this, is like, I think, and this is like advice for anyone who's like, I need to start incorporating more running, is I think maybe you should do, every time you go to the gym, you should do a 10-minute run.
Yeah,
and
that
like
is a good idea.
and like maybe that won't necessarily make you a great runner, but if you did 10 minutes every day, it'll make you a better runner than if you didn't run.
I was actually thinking about this today. I might look into going to just a commercial gym because I miss having a treadmill, and I don't know what it is about it. I just miss being able to just go on a treadmill and like do an interval session, or even just do a warm up and just like not have to run outside in the heat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I do think I kind of miss the. I definitely miss the like global type of gym setup, but.
So, anyways, that's why I feel like I wasn't as prepared for this Hyrox, because I wasn't running as much as I was the last time, because my last Hyrox I was doing a half marathon prep, and it was back in Canada, and the weather was not this hot, and I also had access to a treadmill. So anyways, nevertheless, taper week was all right. To be honest, I could have tapered more, but because of this new opportunity that I got, my sleep got kind of messed up just because I had to wake up early a few days, and I think that definitely affected me on race day, just the lack of sleep throughout the week, and just like managing the nerves and anxiousness of like starting something possibly new. Like, it just kind of messes with you sometimes. But yeah, that was my taper week.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how just the whatever training you've been doing going into like the week before a competition, like you want to feel like you're just like you're doing the same thing, but then there's a part of you that is like, I need to feel really good. But then when you start to do less and less work, you then almost sometimes feel more sore, because like now that then you're starting to like absorb all the volume too. Like it's this weird thing where like, I think one of the biggest feelings that I have now is like, because last week was like I did taper so much after I had hit the race on Saturday night. It's like my body was like, it was so unused to hitting such an aggressive high volume thing.
That's how I felt
now my
too.
body is like, what did you just do? But so let me rewind a little bit and talk about just like my week build up. So I flash back 2 weeks. I hit 75K. And so basically my whole plan leading into Hyrox Brisbane was to increase my volume, my running volume. That was my number one goal, was to become the best and strongest, fastest runner I could be, so that ultimately if I lowered my lactate threshold, which is, your lactate threshold is the point at which your body starts producing lactate while at a speed pretty much based on where you're running. And for me, I had been successfully like doing one interval session each week and increasing the volume, and then I had a deload week and kept increasing until the 75K. And then when I got to 75K 2 weeks ago, I knew that I needed to like decrease that for the next 2 weeks leading into this race. And so I did 60K the week after, and I did 44K or something the week before. And then in the week leading up to, without including the race, I did, I think, 31K. So that was how I tapered my running volume for the race. And let me tell you, going into Saturday, like I felt good, but that was not the case like the week before. I was so nervous that I had completely screwed my hip. My right hip was giving me so many issues. My calves, my Achilles tendons were really tight. My body was telling me something. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this whole prep was like, I know that 75K in a week is a little stretching it in terms of what I can actually kind of absorb in an effective way. I could maybe slow it down and do 75K and just maybe go a little slower. But in the future, and when I kind of reach those mileage targets, I think right around like the 50-60K mark, and then increasing and incorporating more biking volume would be a huge win in terms of like being able to then tap into more volume and then get more fitness. And ultimately, like with anything you do, you will get better if you spend more time. And I think that is like, if you don't take that away from anything, like I want people to listen to this to know that like I'm a firm believer, and I firmly coach from a point of view that you will get the results. They're guaranteed. And it's not like this guessing game where you do a handful of workouts and you're like, I don't know, and hopefully my fitness is getting better. It's like, this is where I'm at. This is a linear way for me to get the progress. And keep in mind, I don't think your progress is linear, but if there's a way to control how you improve, it is by increasing volume and increasing intensity and being able to be very smart. And what was that so Tash shared with me a woman who's in the Elite 15 the other day, and her post was like, why you aren't progressing. And this post, I think, Jade Skillin, yeah. And the reason one of the last reasons she listed was your mental fitness does not match your physical fitness. And I think a lot of, if you're a past athlete or if you've never been an athlete, you can relate to both sides of this, where you might have a mental toughness where you're really mentally tough, so you can push yourself to a level of like hard that actually is going to hurt you. It's going to train you towards injury. It's going to train you towards breakdown rather than building up and building blocks and stacking those building blocks. And so I just want people to think about that as like, make sure that like you're even though you can endure suffering or like push yourself through this, it might actually be negatively training you. And I think that was a big takeaway I got from rowing, and then moving into this more kind of hybrid style, is you can easily overcook the books. And so training smart is very important. Yeah. So basically going into this week, I was feeling the little niggles here and there. My hip wasn't feeling good. My lower body, I was starting to feel sore. And I had my taper week kind of planned where my last hard session was going to be on Sunday. And I did it on Sunday. And then I did Monday easy run. And then I realized like I need to do something on Tuesday, because if I don't do it on Tuesday, I'm going to have deloaded so much that it will actually shock my system to do what I'm going to do on Sunday. So I did another like kind of tester sim type of variation on Tuesday. keep in mind the race was 4 days later. The best decision I made. I did that on Tuesday, and then I spent Wednesday, Thursday, Friday just focused. I rearranged my work schedule. I got more sleep. I made sure that the variables were in place for me to succeed. And so I got Friday, I was able to sleep in. Saturday, I was able to sleep in. And that pretty much led all the way up to racing at 7:50, which it was supposed to be at 7:30. Race got delayed 20 minutes. And that's another thing, like, you never expect when Hyrox goes, yeah, because we screwed up, we got to push the races back 20 minutes. And sometimes you got to be prepared for those things. And I think that's another thing is, like, anytime someone throws a wrench at you, if you have the mindset where it's like good, it's going to hurt someone else more than it will hurt me kind of thing. Like, that's kind of the mindset that I go into those things with. It's like, I knew there was a guy in my race who was from Perth, and he was in my age group. And I quickly checked it. And I saw that in Perth, it was 2 hours earlier or 3 hours earlier. And so in my head, I go, he's also thinking good because he has this advantage. And I think everyone, like, if you're easily rattled by those changes, that is something I think is important to work on, because I think if you can be the one that gets rattled the least or affected the least in those situations, you're in a really good place.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, Tash.
Yeah.
Why don't you dive into the, like, hours leading up to the race, your nutrition, and then getting into the warm-up area and getting into the tunnel.
Okay, so we raced on a Saturday, so we slept in Saturday because I had worked Friday night. So I went to bed pretty late on Friday night, but then I slept in on Saturday, so I felt pretty good. But like any race day, like, you're just kind of nervous and anxious kind of, like, beforehand. And obviously once the race is over, you're like, why did I stress so much about that? Like, are you serious? Like, why did you stress so much about that? But it's just your body. It's just like instinct. Like, you can't avoid it, or maybe you can, but I don't know. For me and for Calvin, it's very hard to avoid that feeling. So yeah, like, just constantly going to the bathroom all day, just like
hydrating,
emptying the tank, just feeling anxious. We went on a shakeout run in the morning. It felt all right, but the whole week I just not been feeling 100%. And I think there's a quote that Nick Bear says that, what is it again?
Which one?
The doubt one. Oh,
doubt. This is one of my favorite quotes. Doubt is only dangerous unless you doubt if
you don't know the quote.
No, I do.
I don't either.
Nah, I just was about to screw it up. Doubt is only dangerous if you doubt yourself. Yeah. Doubt is only dangerous if you doubt yourself.
So the whole week I had been in my head doubting myself because I was just annoyed that I didn't feel well and still felt sick. Woke up every single day congested, sore throat, just annoyed with myself that, like, I wasn't getting better. And I obviously those negative thoughts just can't benefit you, right? So the day of the race, tried to stay positive. We had our normal breakfast, and then we planned to eat lunch, like, when we were at the venue. But I will say, if it's your first time doing your Hyrox and you're a super anxious, nervous person, do not spend the day at the venue. Do not spend the hours before your race in the venue, and do not go too early either, because then you're just going to be sitting there for hours just stressed and anxious and just waiting around. And then I ended up just scrolling on my phone for 2 hours, which is like the dopamine that I didn't need.
This is hilarious. I have to get into two aspects of this. Tash is on her phone scrolling and, like, just, like, keeping herself occupied, and I look at her and I said, Tash, you're overstimming. You're overstimming right now.
And I said, what do you want me to do? We didn't bring playing cards or anything.
No.
I don't know what to do with
that's
myself.
Also overstimming. this is where the stoic mentality or the mindfulness or the breathing, like that is where you need to incorporate them. Is like you want to find true boredom, because if you can find true boredom, that is the deepest point in which you are excited to do things from. Like remember the days when you were like 8, 9, 10 years old, and all you wanted to do was like go play outside with your friends. And like the reason you wanted to do that so bad is because you were so bored with just like having nothing to consume yourself. And that's why I think social media and all that stuff is so sad, is because it disconnects us so much, because you can just get this easy dopamine fix. And the other aspect of the hours leading up to your race that is so important is meal timing. And I was talking to one of our friends with Tash about this, and I hadn't really dove into it with you because I had never really processed this like and verbalized it. But you need to have a plan going into a race that you can execute with your nutrition, and you need to make sure that you don't fall into the trap of wanting to feel good for every minute leading up to the race.
Yeah. And
I think people don't realize this. Is I also never realized this. Is like I thought if I just maintained this feeling of like I'm ready to race
the whole day,
that when it gets to race time,
you're going to be
you're going to be ready to race. Like that's what in your head, if you think that way, you're like, if I just eat a little bit and just like drink or whatever, you think you're going to be ready to race. If you're racing later in the day, even noon or whatever, whatever it is, that is the worst way to approach it. And I think if you can keep the foods that you eat consistent to what you normally eat, because ultimately when you do your hard workouts during the week, normally you don't train that way, you don't eat that way. Mm-hmm. And so you need to be able to time the roller coaster of digestion. And this is what I mean by that is, so I eat my first breakfast meal on Saturday. I ate it around 10 a.m. So I knew my energy was going to dip and I was going to feel this fatigue right after I eat. Most people feel that like kind of like sluggish feeling after they eat. And then about an hour to 2 hours, then it starts to slowly increase. Your energy starts to slowly increase. You've started to digest and process this food, and you start to feel like this increase until it plateaus. And then you need to either refuel, reeat, or compete, right? And this process happens every day. And so I knew that this was going to happen. And so I ate at 10 a.m. I ate my lunch then at 2 o'clock, right? And then I knew when we got to the venue that I wanted to eat my last meal around 4 o'clock, so that I had 3.5 hours to completely digest my food. And from then on, I would rehydrate. And so what I mean by this is at 4 o'clock at the venue, I ate a meal, and I could have eaten probably a bit more. I honestly think I under ate my last meal because I had a bit more. I definitely wish I had a bit more rice. If I had eaten a bit more, I think I would have done better. But basically, after that meal, I felt as if I were to race within the next 30 minutes or hour or even hour and a half, I would be in trouble. And this is what I mean by that is like, if you were about to race within 2 hours of your meal, you should feel as if like, this isn't good. You know what I mean? And that's so important.
Yeah. You need to feel like you have enough fuel in your body.
And when the race got pushed back 20 minutes, you know what I mean? There was probably people who I was racing against who it had been even longer, right? And they were even further from when they had last eaten. And so they were even more in the hole. And so I think that is just a very quick tip to anyone who's thinking about how they fuel and their nutrition going into a race and how important it is, because that's exactly kind of how I how I think about it leading up to it is ride the roller coaster. Don't try and plateau it and try and maintain just a good feeling all day. Use the roller coaster and time the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I ate a ham and cheese bagel for lunch at the venue, but I felt like we were there too early.
Mm-hmm.
That was just how I felt personally, because I'm not the type of person who enjoys going to the Hyrox event and watching people for hours before their own race. Like, I just can't be in the venue for too long.
Mm-hmm.
I just get really overstimulated, and I just get really sensitive with that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know what the right word is. I've never been diagnosed with anything, but there are many instances where my body just like kind of just like does not want to be in a certain place just because of all the loud noises and just too many people. And
that's what introversion is. I think is like when you get overstimulated, you feel so drained, and that I think it is that right. It's just true introversion.
However, I was also feeling drained from just sitting around on the couch at the convention center, just like waiting for my race. But anyways, so I ate my lunch, let it digest, had some electrolytes, felt good. And then I went to go warm up, and I just got this wave of fatigue. And in my head, I was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what I thought would happen, because I'm not used to racing or exercising this late in the day. And I was just like nervous and a little tired and just like tired from thinking about it the whole day. So anyways, I told myself, you know what, just go out there, do your best. I warmed up pretty well. I did a 10-minute bike. I did some of my stretches that I usually do. And I know my own body, and I didn't want to go for a run beforehand because like that would just have tired me out even more. Some people need to like go and run it out before the race, but for me, I was like, I already did a recovery run in the morning. Like, I don't need to run again. And then I go into the start tunnel. I'm feeling all right. I feel even better because my friend Jasmine was right beside me, and she's just the most lovely human being. And it just, you know, when you have that one person beside you, you're like, this is great. So everything was good. Start the race. I do my first run, and my heart rate's pretty high. However, I was trying not to sprint the first lap because I knew that I needed to keep something in the tank for the ski erg. And then I get to the ski erg, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm halfway through the ski, and I'm like, I didn't train for this. And in my head, I'm going, I have 7 more runs and 7 more whole stations to do. Anyways, get off the ski erg. I felt okay. The run after the ski erg felt okay. Then I go for the sled push. I push it half a length, stand up, and go, This is way heavier than I thought. And I trained with an even heavier weight than the sled was, and it felt so heavy. And this is what I would do if I could go back. I would just, in my Hyrox sessions, do so much more compromised running on tired legs. Like that, and just the amount of volume of like sled push. Calvin and I were talking about this like after we were debriefing about the race, and we were like, the length of the sled in Hyrox, like the actual carpet, is so much longer than you think. And in training, you probably are doing a circuit that's like a few lengths and then like a run or some exercise, then you come back, you do a few lengths. Like, yes, maybe that can help you train for it, but you need to also kind of just be training the whole length or even more all at once. And
and the reason I think like that is such an important lesson that I think we both took away is there was a point where exactly what you're saying is like when you get used to like the circuit style of like even doing any Hyrox movement, you get 3/4 of the way through the Hyrox station. Like you get 3/4 of the way through the sled pull, the sled push, the burpees,
the
whatever,
lunges,
the lunges, and you're like,
okay, this feels all right. This is what I trained for.
This feels like no, this feels like how I should feel, and now I should go run.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I should actually go and push another quarter of it and then run. And it's like, it's funny how that last quarter it adds up so much. Like I remember my grip on the sled pull. My sled pull is like my bread and butter. I'm really, really strong on the sled pull. And I just remember like, I thought I was going to crush people, and I was just very middle of the road because I wasn't prepared for like
the amount of volume. Yeah. And it's just way longer than you think. And also the ropes at Hyrox are so different than the ones you use in a normal gym. They are like elastic. I don't know if you guys can imagine that, but
there's just more elasticity in the rope. There's
so much elasticity. So when you pull it, you're like, whoa. Like this is literally like you need to like reach your arm out way further than you think, then kind of pull it in to get the tension. But even then there's still some like elasticity in it. And then you start walking back and you go, this is not moving. It's not moving. And I will say the sled pull was really challenging for me too, because I wasn't used to the rope, and I was just so tired and my legs were not used to running. Yeah, and one of the little things that is so frustrating with even the sleds is, so they have all these timing things like underneath the sleds to make sure that like you're crossing basically and doing and not cheating. But because the timing things aren't like, they're not smooth or whatever, like the sled has to like, you push it over it and it goes like ding 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 ding, and then the sled pull, the carpet, because the carpet is like cut into 2 lanes each, and then there's like a slim piece of asphalt underneath whatever the ground is. Asphalt. Concrete, the ground of the convention center.
Because that small little lane of concrete is there, the sled, anytime there's like, it has any sort of pull to one side, it gets stuck in this like concrete rut.
Okay, if you guys are listening, let me just better explain this. So for Hyrox in the sled push and pull, it's all on carpet. And in an ideal world, you would think that they would just roll out a full carpet so then everyone would just kind of have their own lane on the carpet. That's what I thought that it was like, right? But the way that they did it in Brisbane was that every person...
No, this is how it's done. Every
person, or was it every two?
It's a partner. It's every two people.
Every 2 people
is on one carpet.
So if you can imagine that, and then the next one starts a few centimeters after that. So there's a little divot where if you push the sled or pull the sled in the slightly off direction, it will get caught.
And the reason it's more of an issue on the sled pull is on the sled push, you have all the control and can maneuver it. The sled pull, sled is like, it's like
so
12,
far away
it's
from
25 feet from you. It's 12 meters, right? And so when it gets stuck in the rut, you're relying on either the judge to come over, or like me, I saw it got pushed into the concrete and I'm thinking, hopefully this is just faster. So I just started yanking on it, and I was laughing. I was talking to somebody after, and I was like,
I think it would have been faster.
No, it was a little bit faster until it wasn't. And I felt some like tension, and I was like, this is not it. And I was like, hey, like fix it. And then, and no one fixed it. So I just kind of had to like deal with it. And so these are the little things that I think get people frustrated, because it's just like, why can't the sled just be somehow limited to like this left to right motion? It's just so frustrating that like the sled pull can like start to drift over, or even there's videos out there where like people's sled stack just falls over.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And when we were watching the girls relay on Sunday night, I don't know if you saw, but someone's sled got caught on someone else's sled. And then this little girl judge like ran over and she was like, oh, can I touch it? I don't know what to do.
Yes,
and she was like asking the head judge if she could like pull it out.
Oh, this was terrible. So this was actually terrible. This is a nightmare.
Got caught on each other.
Well, so I'll explain this. So the sled pull, you have to do 4 lengths. You got to go there, back, and so like if 2 people started on the same side, like even if they got caught, like they're pulling the same direction.
Yeah.
This is the opposite. So someone had already done 1 length. So the sleds are moving in opposite directions, and then they hooked they hooked each other. All right. So we're watching this relay. These sleds are now hooked into each other, and like this woman who was judging might have weighed 60 kilos, 50 kilos. There was no freaking damn way that she was moving these sleds. Like, and so then the mixed doubles people like had to run over, pry them apart, and it's just like one of these things where it's like, what a waste. Like, what a waste of like the flow of the race, because it like you hate when you like it kills your momentum, and I think that's so frustrating because those can make and break like the tide of momentum in a race where like you're either going to maintain and stick with someone versus I finished my burpees, and the guy in front of me who I was like just trying to stick with, he was like pushing me, did his last burpee and his heel clipped the line, and I then jumped over the line, and he would have been at least 15 seconds in front of me. He then had to, like, someone was yelling at him to come back. He lost at least 25 30 seconds of momentum. And it's just interesting because that was like a 30-second swing where I'm up now 15 seconds versus being down by 20 seconds. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just an interesting point of view. But
so yeah, back to the race. So I'm running around the whatever it's called, the track. Do the first 4 stations. So after the sled pull, it's the burpees, right? I get into the burpees, feeling obviously like really gassed from like how tired my legs are.
And were you just in a negative headspace already?
I don't know if I was. I don't think I was.
Not yet.
Because I looked at my watch and it said I was 45 minutes in. So basically, Calvin and I had a game plan, and basically, in order to get the time that I wanted, which was an hour and 30 minutes or less, he was like, okay, if you are at burpees at 45 minutes, you're good. That's what I thought he said.
That wasn't what I said, but yeah.
That's what I thought he said. But turns out he meant when I finished burpees.
Leaving the burpees. Yeah. Not even leaving the out arch, leaving the burpees.
Leaving the burpees, yeah. So I made that mistake. So anyways, like I was looking at my watch going, oh, like I'm on time. Like this is good. And then slowly I'm realizing, I'm at like 80 minutes already. Or not 80 minutes. I was at like 70 minutes or something, and I was like, there's just no way I'm gonna finish this.
You would have finished burpees around 50 55. Next run lunges,
I don't know.
No, farmers. It would have been farmers. You would have been around 70.
Anyways, I was looking at my watch going, and then I started just to doubt myself. I like up until the burpees I felt like the workout was so hard, but I had hope. And then once I left the burpees and looked at my watch, I started to doubt myself. And then I just got annoyed because I knew I wasn't on pace. And I knew I wasn't on pace because my whole plan was to just track the workout as a run on my watch, and like look at my rolling pace on the Apple Watch, because there's, when you're doing an outdoor run or whatever, it says rolling pace and average pace. So I was like, okay, sweet. Like, obviously it's not going to be the average pace because I'm going to be doing the stations, but hopefully it will pick up my rolling pace when I'm running. It worked for the first lap, and then it just stopped working. So I had no idea how fast I was running. No idea. In my head, I thought I was running a 5:30 kilometer, and it turns out I was running like a 6:30 kilometer. So I was just disappointed with myself. But clearly I couldn't have run faster because I was gassed. Like, I was trying to run my fastest.
Yeah, I need to go back. I need to look a little closer. I do think you might have done your first run too fast.
I could have, but
I think I've never seen Australians run this fast. I've never seen anyone run Hyrox this first lap that fast. Like, so
yeah, it was insane.
So anyone listening, like, if you know anything about Hyrox sport, the world champion, the 3-time world champion, Hunter McIntyre, who, like, he is a character in the sport.
The bulk pony.
He's notorious for racing from the first step. Like, he is trying to.
There's no such thing as pacing the Hyrox
well, it is,
for him.
but like his whole strategy is to race from the front. And let me explain this to you. Hunter McIntyre he wasn't the first one to the ski erg. Okay? There was people racing him to the ski erg. So what I thought was going to be Hunter McIntyre gapping the field in the first 20 seconds, and then everyone else kind of knowing, all right, Hunter McIntyre, even though he is like very aggressive, like Hunter McIntyre is 5 minutes faster. He finished 5 minutes ahead of second place. Okay.
That's insane.
So there shouldn't have been anyone keeping up with him for the first lap, like from the start. Like, there was like, if everyone was racing smart, he should have been probably 15 seconds, maybe 10 to 15 seconds in front of everybody off the first like line. And so I expected people to race hot, come out hot and come out fast. There was 20 men that stuck with him the whole first lap. Okay. I came into ski erg in 33rd position. Okay. Like, I just ran probably this first lap in around 3.5 minutes, or 3:30 per kilometer. I did it. Like, if I was in any other heat the whole day, I would have been the first person into this ski erg. I was in 33rd position. So if you've ever seen a Hyrox, there's a whole lane of ski ergs. I wasn't even in the lane. I was in the second lane because there was like 30 ski ergs and I wasn't even in those. That's how far back I was, okay? Keep in mind, I wasn't rattled at all. This was my whole plan. Yeah. I am very, very strategic and calculated with how I pace myself, and I know that I'm not someone who can afford to like just blow my gas right in the first 2 minutes and then try and hang on. That is the worst feeling, is just feeling like you're just hanging on to a race. If you know that feeling of like hanging on, that's the worst. But like to what you're saying is, once you have that voice in your head where you're like, where you start doubting yourself and you're like, I don't know if I can do it, you're screwed.
Well, so that's what happened, but it was the truth, though. It's not like I could have done it. It was like, because I had been running so slow from the start, I had no idea what pace I was running. I thought I was running faster than I was. There was just no way that I could make it up in any way.
Excuse me.
So I was just annoyed about that, and then I finished the race. I finished with a 1 minute PB.
But so wait, go into the last station. Like, when you went into wall balls, where you looked at your watch and like you knew, like, was there any sort of like, I could do this? So first of all, and still PR.
I get into the wall balls, and there's probably 30 judges there, just talking to each other. They're not paying attention to anyone because all of the pro women are done by now. I'm literally like one of the last people to finish, right? So anyways, I go in there, and they're supposed to direct you to where to go. And I'm like, for a solid 10 seconds going, where am I going? Because, like, I don't want to get a penalty for just, like, going. to a random like wall ball. Do you know what I mean? Like they're supposed to tell you where to go.
I mean, that's so disappointing because this is
I just wanted to be told, go this way.
I need to say this right now. Hyrox, do better. Be better.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what I mean by this is like the fact that there's not someone waiting for every single person that comes into wall balls and saying you're going there, you're going that way. Like the fact that there's people sitting on their bums, just waiting,
and they were just talking to each other,
and
which means they weren't even ready to start counting. If I went to go pick up the wall ball, so it was just like it was frustrating. So, anyways, I start, and here's the thing in my head. I go, okay, I'm gonna do this new thing that I've never done before that my friend Tamara told me to do. She said start from 16 and count down. So your first set 16, and then 15, and then 14, and then 13, and 12, and 10, all the way down to 9, and all of those equal 100. If you get 0 no reps, right? So obviously my heart rate is so high because I just like ran on super, super tired legs after the lunges, and those lunges are the hardest thing ever. Wait, that's the station before. Yeah. So then I pick up the wall ball, I do 16. And in my head I'm like, okay, I did 16. Pick it up, 1 rep. And then I drop it. And I'm like, why can't I do more than 1 right now? Like literally I'm like, what just happened? And you know when you like start seeing stars?
You weren't breathing.
I wasn't breathing at all.
You're an idiot.
Okay.
Sorry.
Obviously. I wasn't breathing at all.
People don't realize this.
I couldn't catch my breath the whole time. So then I started just trying to do sets of 10. And then I ended up just doing sets of 10 and dropping the ball. And then I turned around and I asked the girl, like, what am I at? Blah, blah, blah.
What'd she say?
I forget. But basically, like, there comes a point where I have 20 reps left to do, I think. And I'm looking at my clock, and it says like I'm at like an hour and 37 minutes or something like that. And I'm like, I don't remember exactly how many left I had, but I'm like, if I don't finish before an hour and 40 minutes, I'm actually gonna die. Like this is the most embarrassing thing that could ever happen to me. And I pick up that wall ball and see death. Literally see death. And do the last 12 unbroken. Even though I had been doing sets of like 4 or 5. And I finish them and I run across the stage. And I had 1 minute to spare.
1 minute PR, baby. You saw it here. You know what's it's amazing how powerful embarrassment is.
Yeah.
Because I even knew
I went through like something mental. Like
well, yeah, I know
like
it's powerful.
I don't think I have ever gone to that dark of a place in my head where I was like, you need to finish this.
Yeah, you're a failure if you don't.
Yeah. And I finished it.
It's so real. Is like when you internalize that like you literally are a failure.
Yeah.
When you have that voice and you hold yourself to such a high standard, it is scary. It is scary because you know the time just keeps clicking. And I was in a similar spot.
Yeah.
I was in a similar spot where I knew I came into wall balls 59 minutes and 15 seconds. So I knew I had 5 minutes and 45 seconds to do wall balls, and I remember like the same thing happened. I did 15 reps, started with 15, and I even caught myself. And this is the most important thing I wanted to say to you is burpees, sleds, ski erg, at any station. When you're in the heat of the moment in the race and you forget how important breathing is.
Yeah. Literally.
And you start bracing and that kind of feeling, like you start tensing.
Yeah.
The more tense you are, you forget to breathe. It's not as important in some stations. In some stations, like burpees, in lunges, in wall balls, you will literally get to a point where your body will just be so deprived of oxygen that it will stop you in your tracks so fast.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think is a huge takeaway for you, is like, if you're not thinking about breathing as much as you should be, then that is a huge thing.
And here's the thing. So I was really, really disappointed that my first pro race in Anaheim in May, I did 1 hour and 40 minutes. And I think 8 months later, I think that's what it is now, or however many months later, however much fitness I've built since then, that I've only got a 1 minute PB. And I was really, really upset at myself after, and people were coming up to me asking me how I did, and I literally was just like, I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about it. I'm so embarrassed. However, I think I learned a lot.
But
and
you also had...
No, let me talk.
Yeah.
The main difference this time was the fact that when I finished that race, I literally, in my head, was like, I could do that again tomorrow and do better.
This time?
Like, when I finished that race, I was like, if I did that again tomorrow, I would get sub 130. Because I knew exactly what I needed to change, and it was just to have something where I could see my running pace. Because if I saw that, I would know when I would need to run faster or slower. But because I had no measure of that, I was just like stuck and I didn't know. So I was just running at a pace that felt comfortable, but not like threshold. And I think I could have been running at threshold, but I wasn't.
Yeah, you were running way too slow.
And but let me finish though. The reason why it took me a few days of reflecting and everything, and although like I'm upset and I didn't reach the goal I wanted to, me like back in May of 2024 when I did my first pro race, when I finished that race, like there's no way I could ever say I could do that again tomorrow and get a better time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I am so much more confident now that I have what it takes. I just didn't execute right. Versus back in May, I just... You did the best you could. I just did the best I could.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things too that like people need to understand this, and because Tash, so if you've watched our most recent episode and like Tash's story, you'll understand this even more. Is like Tash's background. You've only raced and competed a few times in your life.
Yeah, literally, let me count.
And if you are someone who can relate to that, where you've only competed a handful of times, then you are going to be much more susceptible.
6 times.
So you're going to be much more susceptible in an individual sport 6 times or as a team?
2 half marathons and 4 Hyrox races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and one of them was a team Hyrox race.
Yeah, it was one of them was a mixed doubles.
And the thing is if you are susceptible to being kind of unprepared when... I don't even know if it's unprepared. It's not unprepared. It's like being more experienced with just pressure and performance. And I think that's really all it is. Is like I told Tash, like Tash sometimes I think underestimates like she knows that I get like a little weird when I'm about to compete, but she doesn't really know the backstory to why I am very calculated, very focused, very like I have these reasons. And like I can help coach people them, but they have to want to be that. And so with Tash, I've always been like, you do you'll learn from your experiences, because I don't want to tell you because you're not ready for it yet. I know you're not ready for it. And I told her after this race, I said, Tash, like, I can guarantee you your sub 90 minutes, but you have to believe in me. And this goes back to the first thing that you said is you didn't believe in yourself.
I didn't.
You started doubting yourself. And these are the things that like it'll break you so early mentally. And then the last part is you're still getting your reps in. You're still getting your race experience in. Like these kind of things, you'll learn so much more from your failures than you will your successes. And so sometimes you forget that the people you're racing against maybe played sports their whole lives.
Yeah.
They might have gone through all this sort of training mentally that you have never been able to experience. And it sucks that maybe like you're in this individual sport now and that you're comparing yourself. And not only that, listen to this. Tash was in the warm-up area and someone asked her how she had done. She told them she got an hour 40 last race and they laughed at her. So imagine going into your race and someone said that to you. Now you're like, I mean, especially if you're not like in this complete confident mindset and you've got a little bit of doubt, I mean, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, especially if someone treated you like that. So I think you need to start surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. The best coaches infuse undoubtable, unshakable belief in their athletes. If your coach doesn't do that, get a new coach, okay? Remember this, is if your coach does not infuse unshakable, undoubtable belief in you, get a new coach, okay? All right. And so calm down. And so what I think is, no, because I'm so passionate about that. There's a lot of horseshit coaches out there that make their athletes feel like they're not capable, or they instill fear in them. And that's the difference, is that's not a good coach. Yeah. Okay. And I've been a part of a lot of teams, and I've been a part of a lot of different individual sports. And I know what works, and I know what doesn't. And for some people it's different, but I have theories. Yeah. So to sum everything up, I'm disappointed with the outcome. Not only because like I knew if I would have executed differently, I probably could have reached the goal, but the fact that we did a mixed doubles Hyrox, although it was mixed doubles, I still did that running like almost, what was it? 450s. Yeah, in the 450s like average kilometer pace. Then that was back in October. So like I know that I can run a 5:30 kilometer. Like I know I can, because I ran faster than that in October. I don't know if it was the doubt or just how I felt that day, the lack of sleep that week, the stress of maybe starting a new job, just everything piling on top of one another. But I just didn't execute well, and I've learned from it, and I'm not going to be upset about it because I still won, because I was just racing myself. I wanted to do better than I did last time, and I did. I got a 1-minute PB. And although a lot of people are going to be like, that's nothing. Yeah, I know it's not, but small wins. And okay? But I do want to say this one last thing, because I want to ask you this, is like, we talked about this on the episode, on the podcast, before. One of the most important things that you need to ask yourself is, how badly do you want it? And I think when you were on the start line, how bad did you want it? Not that bad. Exactly. Because I knew I didn't follow my training program. So, and there it is. I already know that I didn't put in the work I needed to in order to reach my goal. I know I didn't, because I'd been sick and I missed so many sessions and so many runs. Like I knew that it probably wouldn't have worked out in my favor. Like I knew that. When there's a crack in the foundation, how do you expect to build the Eiffel Tower?
It's true.
How do you expect to build the Eiffel Tower when there's a crack in the foundation? You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And I think if you're listening to this episode, you need to understand that. Like, I could have told you, and I hate saying this, like, I could have told you Tash was screwed from the start, because if there was that true, I don't want it that bad, you weren't gonna hit it. You were looking for shortcuts. You were looking for reasons to not have to, like, you were.
No, but it wasn't even that, because
you were wishing for it to be easy. You can't do well if that's your.
I realize that this shit's fucking hard, and like it doesn't get easier. Like on race day, like it is so unbearably difficult to finish that race. Personally,
well,
that's
no, for everybody. And listen to this, like unless you sell yourself short, like even Hunter McIntyre is pushing himself to his
absolute limit,
right? So like you need to remember, it never gets easier. You just get more familiar. You get more familiar, and you get better at expecting how you're going to feel. And if you do it right, you should feel pretty good and pretty in control until there's a point where you commit and you make the mental choices whether you really want it bad. And this is what I'm saying is, when there's that voice that says, how bad do you want it, right? When you go into lunges and you see that you're down a minute or 30 seconds or whatever, and you're like, how bad do I want it? That is when you put down the gas pedal. That is like your decision. Versus when you peel back, well, once you peel back, you've already checked out. Once you check out in any race, you've already lost.
No, yeah, I know. And when I looked at my watch at the wall balls and realized I had like 2 minutes left to finish all of them, that's when I told myself, how bad do you want it? I said, I want it bad, and I pushed through. And I'm proud of you for that. If you saw in the videos that my friends took of me doing the wall balls, I am so embarrassed. Like, the fact that I was struggling that much and looked that ridiculous, I'm just so embarrassed. Like, it was so hard. Also, I don't know if it was the lighting in there. Why are you laughing?
No, I just love you. You're so funny when you start laughing. I don't know why you're laughing.
I don't know if it's the lighting in there, but I look like a fat piece of ass.
Well, Tash was telling me, and I didn't know this, but women.
So I don't know if you're a girl listening to this, I don't know if it's just me, but this is how I react. My body reacts when I'm in a very high pressure, intense workout. My body bloats so much to the point where like my stomach is like hard and it just like pops out. I just don't look great. And in the Hyrox photos, like I don't even want to post any of them because I don't think I look good, and the lighting made me look so pale. I don't know what who's in charge of that, but they gotta fix that. Because have you looked at your photos yet?
Yeah, I mean,
are you pale?
Because
I'm so washed out. It makes me look terrible.
I don't think they look great, but I think we can slap a couple edits on them and we'll figure it out. But what I will say though is, they need to fix the lighting. But I think what I want to make sure people, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're listening to me and you're like, you're way too intense about this. It isn't. I am intense, but it's because I care about people hitting their goals. I care about people reaching what they know, what I know they're capable of, but also what they know they're capable of. Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than watching someone feel disappointed in themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you're being too harsh, or you're being like, well, I was very supportive of Tash for the first 48 hours. I am still supportive because I'm proud that she did better. but I also know that she's capable of going an hour 30, so I'm not going to let her just like give up.
I know.
Right? I'm not going to.
No, I'm not going
and
to
I
give
know
up.
you're not going to give up because I
Yeah.
do know you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's easy to get kind of lost in this like kind of feeling where it's like, oh, like I don't know if this is right for me, or oh, like do I really have what it takes? And it's, yeah, you just keep building,
Yeah.
you keep learning, you keep using this as a foundation, you keep understanding that this is part of the journey.
Also, I don't know, it was just weird because so when I did my first pro Hyrox race in Anaheim in May, I flew out there by myself, and I knew that beforehand that it was just going to be me out there. I had no support, like no one there to watch me. Like I knew that it was just going to be me and the dance floor, and that was it. And I was fine with that because I could mentally like prepare for that beforehand. But this race,
well, in Toronto.
Anyways, let me finish what I was saying. This race, Calvin was there. A lot of people from the gym were there. And it felt like although everyone was there, no one was really watching. Like Calvin wasn't watching, and like,
well, I was racing.
No, yeah, obviously.
But they wouldn't know that.
Okay. Well, anyways, like Calvin wasn't watching. A couple of my friends I saw like a few times, which was nice, but it wasn't like someone was there the whole time following you around like station to station, like recording you, like I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I think I would have performed better if Calvin was there, like with my camera, like recording me, because I knew I had to reach this goal for the camera. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Because you had someone record your race, and I feel like that maybe did help you.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
The camera would have made zero difference in my race.
Okay.
But I do like giving the camera a wink here and there.
Yeah.
I do like that. But what I will say though is I do think having someone who's like kind of like a consistent check-in in a Hyrox race feels good. And when you don't have that, you feel a little like there's thousands of people here and no one is cheering for me.
Yeah, literally.
And I know that's how you felt, because
that's
especially I would say maybe in the Gold Coast, you feel like you're more connected than maybe you really are.
Well, right off the bat, let me tell you this. This Hyrox race was the most competitive influencer-ish race we've ever been to, and I didn't like it. Yeah. I would have much rather like flown somewhere else in the world and did another race somewhere else. I don't know what it is about the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Like there's just so much ego and so much.
Well, I'll just say this. Yeah,
that it's just like an uncomfortable environment.
I think I'll say this is there's two things. There's Australians are fit. Australians are fucking fast, and so we'll give them that, right? Yeah. Australians are fit people. The other thing is the Hyrox Brisbane was built around these people who have massive followings, right? And no fault of their own, but the fact that like there was these big names like Tia Toomey and James Newbury and all these people like even Hunter McIntyre, and the list goes on of just people on social media. I was racing it in the ultimate race with all these massive names, with all these like people with thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers, and it does feel almost like sometimes it takes away from the realness of just like why people are there.
Why people do it. And let me tell you one thing. So I was watching Hunter McIntyre and Joanna, and then Tia Claire Toomey and
James Newbury
finish their race and cross the finish line. And as they were crossing the finish line or whatever that's called, there were so many people there with cameras trying to film them in their moment. And I felt so bad because there were these women, like older women, just finishing their race, probably like taking them a while to finish, right? Mm-hmm. And their whole moment just got completely interrupted, and they couldn't have their moment on stage and couldn't get their photo taken because of these big dogs who had their whole filming crew there.
Yeah, and
I felt so bad.
But I think it's be careful because I don't think it's their fault.
No, it's not their fault. No, I'm just saying I feel bad.
But I don't think there's really any solution to this because this is like the dilemma of famous people. Yeah. Is they draw a big crowd. Mm-hmm. I just think what the issue is like you have famous people on one hand. I'm so glad they're competing. They're bringing more recognition to the sport. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. They are in this weird position where they want to have the fans out. They definitely want the attention, and they want like the magnitude of the sport and like the moment. They want the videographers there and everything. However, when they finish the race, they want to like say hi, be congratulated, and then just like disappear. And that's like, I think where I'm like, there's a bit of a disconnect because we're at this Hyrox race and like we look above and like there's like this almost separate area for like these influencers who have like a certain amount of clout because they don't want to be bombarded by people and like photos and all this stuff. And so it's just this weird kind of like elitist kind of separation. And I think because fairness in everything and just like everybody should be treated as equals is so important to me and my values that when I see like people like, and there's no solution because like they can't live normal lives because they've ultimately gotten to a spot where they aren't normal people anymore. They're super famous. And it's just frustrating because like I just want everyone to enjoy the event and maybe even just like enjoy like their presence, but like the fact that they have to be put on this pedestal and separated and all this stuff, it distracts Hyrox from what it really is, which is like people training hard to do their best and see how good they are. And it's a distraction. And so I think that's, if I didn't explain it good at first, that's kind of, I think how we felt is it's just this weird dilemma where, it makes you feel a little strange.
Yeah, definitely. So any closing thoughts on our Hyrox debut?
I just wanted to kind of go into, because I didn't really go into really breakdown of my race, so to say, but like I said, like this first lap that I did was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I expected people to go out fast, not as fast as they did. The goal was sub-65 minutes from the start, and I came into wall balls with 5 minutes and 45 seconds to execute that. I put myself in the positions I needed to, and I delivered. Now, did I expect the runs to feel as hard as they did? No. I thought my running fitness was better. Mm-hmm. Do I want to improve my running still? 100%. Am I shocked that my burpees relative to everybody else in the field was my strongest exercise? Yes. I have a herniated disc in my back. Okay. Someone with a herniated disc in their back came 13th in all men's pro in burpees. How does that happen? Right. So I
think you just paced it well.
Well, yeah, obviously I paced it well. But I just think it's just confusing sometimes where you're like, I thought this was my strength, and I wish I didn't. I know I can go unbroken on the farmer's carry, and I wasn't too far off. I did literally like 5/6 of it, and then I just.
You had to just
mentally
stop.
I knew I was gonna they were gonna slip out of my hands. Yeah. And
I think you could have just chalked up more.
I didn't chalk up at all. Oh. I just grabbed the handles with the chalkiest grip.
You gotta chalk.
So that was like a part of it. And then What I'm really proud of, though, is I had my handheld water bottle. Nobody else has done that. I had the second, like I had my rock zone time was within 10 seconds of everybody, within 10 seconds of Hunter McIntyre. So I spent 5 minutes or whatever, 4.5 minutes in the rock zone. I was within Hunter McIntyre within 10 seconds, and I was faster than the guy in second place's rock zone time. So I'm doing everything I need to be doing between where I finish the station when I leave the station. I just need to be better at being a better runner and better at wall balls and better lunges. And so that's like, I know what I need to do next time.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I left everything out there. I did everything. I executed the plan. I got what I needed to. However, I know I can be fitter, and that will ultimately lead to being faster. It's like, it wasn't like I was like, damn, I had 2 minutes of fitness and I choked. It wasn't like that. I maybe could have done a little bit better if I actually went a little slower on the first run and maybe had a bit more on the other runs. Other than that, though, I executed the plan. I'm happy with that. What I'm really excited is I set the goal, I hit it. It wasn't easy, and come to find out, I have the 6th fastest time in North America under 24 ever. And it is a very specific like thing, but for those of you who know me, like I'm still 23 for another year and a half. And there's definitely a lot of room where I can definitely get better. I've only been really focused on this sport for now like 3 months. And I think that's what's exciting is there's like big room for me to take my training plan and just to keep on refining it and get better, especially because I'm only a few minutes away from having like one of the fastest under 24 times active, which is exciting. And like if you don't train like that, like you need these micro goals to then ultimately get to the highest goals. I was telling somebody recently who's in this like high level men's race that the world champion, the current world champion, Alex Roncevic, it took him 8 races, okay? 8 races, and they weren't like back to back. Okay, it might have been over the span of a few years, but it took him 8 races to go under 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. And now he runs like 55s, 54s. He's ran a 53 before, right? So these Hunter McIntyres, these high-level guys, like some of them fitter than others, but you don't just instantly see improvement or like anything overnight. And it takes time. And the fact that it took him 8 races before he even broke 60 minutes. I mean, now if you can't break 60 minutes, like forget about Elite 15. You used to be able to do like an hour and 1, hour and 2 and still kind of crack the Elite 15, which is crazy. And so, yeah, I think it's exciting because I still have like another year and a half in this age group, and it'd be sweet to gear up for World Championships in 2026 and ultimately compete in the under 24 in 2026. And so short-term goals, I have a triathlon, Olympic distance triathlon in 3 weeks. The goal is 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know where I am right now. I'm very like shot in the dark. I got to recover. My body feels like I'm in shambles. Tash would say the same thing.
We both feel broken.
I was walking around work today without bending my legs. I'm like I'm literally like peg-legged. Okay. So what's hilarious is that's not a joke. And so I got to get ready for that triathlon, my swimming and my biking, big emphasis the next 3 weeks. And if I don't hit 220 then, I have another 4 weeks leading up to Byron Bay Triathlon. Same thing, do it again. And so I gave myself this kind of 8 weeks to give 2 cracks at this 2 hour and 20 mark. If I hit it the first time, then great. Then we'll try and get faster. So that's the focus until the end of April. And then we start to refine the plan to break 3 hours in the marathon. And ultimately, if I feel like it's possible, take that 3 hour goal and even refine it to a Boston qualifying time, which I think is 2 hours and 55 minutes. So my goal, my rough goal is I'm going to break 3 hours. I know it's in me. I need to just stay healthy. And that will be August 3rd. And I'll be doing that marathon with Tash. Hopefully we can try and help convince somebody else in the Gold Coast area to come and to do the marathon with us. Cause I think it'd be fun to try and convince as many people as we can. But yeah, so that'll be the goal, is sub 3 hours, ideally a Boston qualifying time, maybe 2:55. And that will definitely take a lot of training. And I think you are a little kind of skeptical, maybe not skeptical, but I think like what a marathon volume is going to take from you.
No, I'm just scared of getting injured.
Yes, and I think
I know my body's prone to injury, so I know it can happen really easily, because even just training for 25K, I almost got injured as well.
So for Tash, the training plan, and I told her like we're going to start building up, because I want her to do a Hyrox sim and break an hour and 30, and just so she has the confidence going into her next race, because I'm going to pace her on all her runs and then kind of just cheer her on for her stations. So we're going to have her do that very soon, within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we're going to Tash has about a month or so, a month and a half to kind of build more base, still do her strength training, and then she's going to have to start preparing for this marathon prep. Yeah. And with her training, she's got to be very careful with the volume management, which is what she's just saying, is like if she gets into any sort of injuries, it's instant right onto the bike, instant peel back the volume, because Tash doesn't have the luxury sometimes, as much as I do, with being able to kind of train through a little bit of like kind of in soreness or whatever, because she just has more of this knee pain and prone to more kind of issues. So that's our Hyrox Brisbane recap.
I love how when we started this podcast, I said, Calvin, this is going to be under 50 minutes. And it's been an hour and 26 minutes.
And there was no way it was going to be under 50 minutes, because I love this stuff. If you stuck out this episode, you know I live to talk fitness. I live to talk about Hyrox and even any sort of fitness. Anytime, if you're listening to this right now, send me a text and call me. If you want to talk about your own training and there's something that you're like, I don't know if I'm doing something right. I don't know if I should sign up for a race or how to even train for something, please just send me a text, send me a DM, because ultimately I want you to hit your goals. I want you to enjoy training, and I don't want you to be disappointed in yourself. Just like I think most people feel when they let themselves down and they miss a goal, or they don't really know how the guideline. I told someone recently that was a high level guy. I said, if you're not this fast, you're never gonna get it. You're not capable. So if you can prove to me you can do this, then you have the potential to do this. And I think that's how fitness is. If you can prove me you can do this, then we unlock new potential.
Free speed for today. What's your free speed?
My free speed, it goes back to when you're preparing your nutrition for a big race, just remember that you should not feel as if you're maintaining the ability to race and that feeling like I could race all day long. You should never feel like if I raced in 5 minutes, in 20 minutes, or in 2 hours, and 3 hours, like I would be ready. Be a little bit more brave and comfortable to eat normal. Eat a large amount of food earlier in the day if you're racing later, and feel this kind of peak and dip of energy in terms of like, oh, I feel really heavy and sluggish or whatever. Just trust yourself. Just be patient and know that this kind of roller coaster, it'll ride it. And if you time it right, that when you eat your last meal around 3.5 hours or so, what I like to do before your race, that is like that peak feeling of like, oh, I feel a little sluggish. And every step, every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes, you're going to get closer to that feeling of feeling primed and race ready, and really ultimately ready to attack your race. So that's my free speed.
My free speed is, if you are doing a Hyrox race, if it's your first one, if it's your 5th one, if you think you've trained enough, train harder. Like, if you walk away from your training block going, Yeah, I think I trained enough. Like I did a Hyrox workout once a week and did all my conditioning, strength training, and running a few times a week. Train harder because ultimately if you're not training the volume that's in the race, when it comes to race day, your body is literally going to cramp and seize, and like you're not going to be prepared. Like the amount of walking lunges that you have to do all at once, not in a circuit style workout, but literally all at once. It is so different that like you just need to be practicing that volume or more. And same thing for wall balls and stuff. Like I'm just going to start doing like 150 air squats at the end of every session just to get
for
better.
Speed.
Yeah, just to get better at squatting and at depth, and then after that I'm going to start adding in a shoulder movement. So a squat into like a thruster or something and just do 150 thrusters. Like, and then I'll add in the wall ball and the throw. It's like you just need to be doing the volume in order to feel ready, or else you're never going to feel ready on race day.
100%.
Like
how many times, just like you said, like I went into lunges around like 50 minutes, 45 minutes. You might have been like an hour and 10, whatever.
Yeah.
How many times are you an hour into a hard workout and then do 100 lunges, just like Tash said, 100 lunges into another 1K run, into 100 wall balls?
Yeah.
Like you don't experience that. If you don't experience anything like that in training, then just like you said, it's gonna slap you in the face. And I think that is 100% a huge tangible free speed that people can take away is don't underestimate what 100 weighted lunges into a 1K run, into 100 wall balls will do to you at the end of a race.
Yes, for sure. So guys, if you're still listening, thanks for sticking around. I hope you guys enjoyed our Hyrox talk. If you're into Hyrox, if you're into sports, and if you're into running, make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, and we're on YouTube now as well if you're watching this on video.
We appreciate you.
Give us a comment, tell us if you're racing in Hyrox, if you're doing your next race, let us know. We'd love to know. And yeah,
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.